shortly to Hellenism. A large number of Greeks settled in the conquered territories. Thus, Greek thought and art penetrated the Near East and North Africa. The Greek language became the means of communication between people as a world language, much like English today. Alexandria became a center of science and world trade, with its great library housing many significant ancient texts. New knowledge was gained. Euclid, Archimedes, Eratosthenes. Now on to Rome. While the Etruscans ruled large parts of Italy, the city-state of Rome developed from several villages. Its population consisted of farmers, craftsmen, and landowners. Etruscan kings ruled the state from about 600 BC. Advisors were the elders from the respected Roman families, the senators. The head of the family was the pater familias, which is Latin for the father of the family, whom all family members were required to obey unconditionally. Now Rome becomes a city-state. To prevent the return of monarchy, all important state offices were subject to the principles of collegiality and annuality. Each office was held by at least 2 elected persons, who served only 1 year. At the head of the republic were 2 consuls. The Senate, the Council of Elders, composed of former office holders, who ensured political continuity. Initially, all offices were held by patricians, until, over time, the plebeians fought for their own officials. The written establishment of the law, 12 tables, and access to all offices. In 2 centuries, Rome first gained control over Latium, then over all of Italy, in conflicts against neighbors, Etruscans and Latins. The inhabitants of the conquered territories received citizenship, but had to provide soldiers for the Roman army in case of war. To secure their control, they established settler colonies connected by paved roads to Rome. Thus, the Latin language also spread. In the struggle over the possession of Sicily, Rome, the greatest land power, clashed with Carthage, the greatest naval and commercial power, which would be the Phoenicians or Punics. Only when they managed to defeat the Carthaginians at sea could the Romans dictate peace. Sicily became the first province in 241 BC. In the Second Punic War, the Carthaginians' general Hannibal crossed the Alps and repeatedly defeated the Roman legions in Italy. Ultimately, the Romans decided the war in their favor. 201 BC, Spain became a Roman province. In the Third Punic War, Carthage was destroyed. After further victories in Greece and Asia Minor, Rome ruled almost the entire Mediterranean. The Romans adopted many achievements from Greek culture, so-called Hellenism. Now on to the century of civil wars. The wars had consequences for the empire's economy and society. The large landowners produced grain, oil, wine, and meat much cheaper with the help of slave labor, while small farmers' farms suffered heavily from the wars. The consequences were, for one, the sale of farms and their takeover by large landowners. 2. the expansion of estates into entire districts, and 3. The emergence and constant increase of the proletariat in large cities. Through the influx of dispossessed farmers, due to their large number, they had a decisive influence in the popular assembly. Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus. Among the politicians, 2 groups emerged: the populares, who supported the popular assembly, and the optimates, who supported the Senate. Composed of the wealthy patricians and plebeians, as a peasant class hardly existed anymore. The Roman army lacked soldiers. The consul Marius allowed the Praetorians to enter the army. The new mercenary armies obeyed only their commanders, who promised them land and benefits. They now often disregarded the decision of the Senate. Civil war-like conditions occurred. 2 popular politicians, Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus, attempted to prevent the sale of peasant farms by limiting the size of estates. They were murdered. Now on to the Roman Imperial period. Since 27 BC, Octavian bore the honorary title Augustus, marking the beginning of the Imperial period in Rome. Augustus' rule brought internal peace to the Roman Empire. The backbone of his power was the army, which was completely loyal to him. 200,000 citizens regularly received free grain. Formally, Augustus did not establish a sole rulership, but pretended to be merely the first citizen of Rome, or Latin, princeps. He aimed to restore the Senate's old prestige and some of its power. However, all decision rested solely in the hands of the emperor: command authority, tribunician power, and legislation. Additionally, he held supreme command over the army and the provinces. The state had effectively become a monarchy. Now, the city is the center of life. Augustus and the emperors who followed beautified Rome with palaces and parks, tearing down dilapidated houses. The surrounding villages became suburbs, with splendid country houses for the nobility. The aqueducts, which provided water supply, were particularly admired. A constant concern was to feed the masses of poor people. It demanded not only grain, but also entertainment. Massive amphitheatres were built, capable of accommodating enormous crowds. Now, the Romans in Germania. Germans repeatedly invaded northern Italy across the Alps. After Caesar's conquest of Gaul, Emperor Augustus sought to bring Germania under Roman control, succeeding only between the Alps and the Danube. In the northern region, resistance was too strong. A low point was the devastating defeat of 3 legions by Arminius, also known as Hermann, in the Teutoburg forest in 980. 20,000 soldiers were lured into an ambush and perished, their leader, Varus, committing suicide. Germania beyond the Danube and Rhine remained unoccupied. The emperors continued to expand the border fortifications. The Upper Rhine border wall, the Limes, was established starting in 84 AD and maintained by the Romans until the end of 390 AD. The soldiers received support from the forts, the military camps, which were spaced along the wall and connected by a road network. In the provinces, Roman culture spread, so-called Romanization. For example, Cologne became an important economic center, offering the same amenities as Rome itself. For a time, Emperor Constantine ruled the Roman Empire from Trier. The surrounding countryside featured agricultural estates, which would be villae, so villages, as well as luxurious manors. Now, the Roman world empire in the 3rd and 4th century. The advance of the Germans in the north and around the Black Sea shook the empire's borders. Internal difficulties, deforestation, the desolation of vast areas, famines, plagues, high taxes, and currency devaluation brought Rome to the brink of collapse. Large landowners expanded their holdings, and peasants placed themselves under their protection, becoming dependent on them. The population increased. During this time, soldiers dominated the empire. They appointed and deposed emperors. To better defend the empire, Diocletian, 284 to 305, divided the rule with 3 co-rulers. The emperors now called themselves Dominus et Deus, which is Latin for Lord and God. Harsh laws enforced the payment of taxes. All citizens were subjected to various obligations as subjects. Constantine the Great, the son of one of the 4 successors, restored sole rule. He significantly strengthened the concept of the emperorship and moved the capital of the Roman Empire to Byzantium, modern-day Istanbul, which henceforth was called Constantinople.